They're not human. Watch government officials break silence on non-human life. Is this Bible prophecy? 34 intelligence officials just confirmed what Genesis 6 warned us about. They stated, they're not human. And what they're describing matches exactly what the Bible says happened in Noah's days. You will be shocked when you discover 3 biblical connections to what these officials revealed about non-human beings. Number 1, the officials speak what they're finally admitting. On November 21st, something unprecedented happened. After 80 years of denial, ridicule, and cover-ups, the dam finally broke. Not with one whistleblower who could be dismissed, not with blurry footage that could be debunked, but with 34 high-ranking military, intelligence, and government officials all saying the same thing. Non-human intelligence is real. It's here, and it's been interacting with humanity for decades. Let me tell you who these people are, because their credentials matter. We're talking about former directors of national intelligence, Pentagon officials with above top-secret clearances, nuclear weapons officers who controlled our ICBMS, aerospace engineers from Lockheed's Skunk Works, CIA operations officers. These aren't people prone to fantasy. They're trained observers whose entire careers depended on accurate threat assessment. And they're all saying the same thing, using almost identical language, as if they're describing the same phenomena from different angles. David Grush, former National Geospatial Intelligence Agency officer and National Reconnaissance Office representative to the UAP Task Force, made this stunning statement under oath before Congress. The U.S. government is in possession of non-human craft and non-human biologics. Non-human biologics. Let that sink in. Bodies. Entities. Beings that aren't human. Some experts say, these beings have been interacting with humanity for thousands of years. Every major religion has documented encounters with them. They're in our oldest texts, our earliest writings, our foundational scriptures. He's right. Genesis 6 describes them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what else these officials are revealing, because the details matter. Commander David Fravor, the Navy pilot involved in the famous Tic Tac UFO encounter, describes what he witnessed. It was a white, oblong object, about 40 feet long, with no wings, no rotors, no exhaust. It was hovering over churning water. Then it accelerated from a standstill to hypersonic speed in less than a second. No human technology can do that. The G-forces would turn a human pilot into liquid. But here's what Fravor has never said publicly until now. When I got close to it, I felt something. Not with my body, in my mind. Ryan Graves, former Navy pilot, testified before Congress about daily UAP encounters off the eastern seaboard. These things would be out there all day, keeping pace with our jets, hovering in our training areas. They knew our schedules. They knew our flight plans. They were waiting for us. Waiting, watching, studying, like they're gathering intelligence, like they're preparing for something. Colonel Carl Nell, who worked with the UAP task force, is even more direct. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This is established fact. The only questions now are, who are they? Where are they from? And what do they want? The answers to those questions will fundamentally alter human civilization. Robert Hastings, who documented UFO activity at nuclear bases, concludes with this warning. Whatever these beings are, they're not here to help us. Number 2, Genesis 6, the ancient template. To understand what these government officials are really describing, we need to go back to the most censored, mistranslated, and deliberately obscured passage in the entire Bible. Genesis chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Stop right there. Your pastor probably told you the sons of God were the godly line of Seth, marrying the ungodly line of Cain. That interpretation is safe, comfortable, natural, and completely wrong. The Hebrew phrase is Bene Ha-Elohim, literally, sons of God. This exact phrase appears only 5 times in the Old Testament, 3 times in Job, twice in Genesis, and every single time in Job, it explicitly refers to angels. Direct divine beings, members of God's heavenly council. Job 1:6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Job 38:7. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Were the descendants of Seth presenting themselves in God's throne room alongside Satan? Were human beings present at creation when the morning stars sang? Obviously not. The sons of God are divine beings, angels. And in Genesis 6, some of these angels did the unthinkable, but the worst part was their offspring, the Nephilim. The word means fallen ones in Hebrew. These were hybrids, part human, part angelic. They were giants, but not just in size. They were giants in evil, violence, genetic corruption. The earth became so corrupted that Genesis 6:5-6 records. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Every imagination only evil continually. That's total corruption, total depravity. The human genome had been so corrupted by Nephilim DNA that only Noah was found perfect in his generations. The Hebrew word is tamim, meaning without blemish, complete, whole. Noah's genetics were uncorrupted. He was still fully human. This is why God sent the flood. Not just because of sin, humans had been sinning since Eden, but because of genetic corruption that threatened to eliminate pure humanity altogether. If there were no pure humans left, the Messiah couldn't come. The promise of Genesis 3:15, that the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head, would be void, Satan would win. But here's the detail most people miss. Genesis 6:4 says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that." After the flood, the Nephilim returned. How is that possible? The Bible records multiple post-flood appearances. The Anakim, descendants of Anak. The Emim, Deuteronomy 2:10-11. The Zamzummim, Deuteronomy 2:20. The Rephaim, Joshua 12:4. Goliath and his brothers, 2 Samuel 21:16-22. These weren't just tall humans. The spies who scouted Canaan said, "We saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." Numbers 13:33. But how did they survive the flood? 3 possibilities. Some Nephilim genetics survived through Noah's daughters-in-law. A second incursion of fallen angels occurred after the flood. They survived in underground bases or underwater cities. That third option sounds like science fiction, but ancient texts worldwide describe gods and demigods retreating underground or underwater after a great cataclysm. and modern UFO sightings frequently involve craft emerging from or entering the ocean. Dr. Michael Heiser, the late biblical scholar, made this connection explicit. The UFO phenomenon mirrors the Genesis 6 narrative perfectly. Advanced technology, the corruption of human genetics. It's the same story with updated terminology. The Book of Giants, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, describes the Nephilim having dreams about their coming destruction in the flood. Every pagan pantheon, Greek, Roman, Norse, Hindu, Egyptian, describes gods with the same characteristics. They came from the heaven stars. They took human partners. They produced hybrid offspring, demigods/heroes. They possessed advanced technology. The entire pagan world was worshipping fallen angels and their hybrid children. Chuck Missler, the late biblical scholar, pointed out something crucial. The Bible doesn't say angels can't have physical bodies. It says they don't marry in heaven, but these were fallen angels who left heaven. They broke the rules. They materialized in physical form and reproduced with humans. This explains why every ancient culture has flood legends. Over 270 cultures worldwide have stories of a great flood that destroyed the world because the gods were angry at humanity's corruption. But only the Bible tells us the real reason. But here's what should terrify you. The corruption that caused the flood is happening again. But this time, it's voluntary. Transhumanism promises to merge humans with machines. CRISPR allows direct genetic manipulation. Ray Kurzweil, Google's director of engineering, promises that by 2045, we'll achieve the singularity. When human and artificial intelligence merge, he calls it the next step in evolution. But what if it's actually the final step in corruption? What if it's Genesis 6 all over again? Occult practices mainstream, witchcraft, astral projection. Contact with spirit guides normalized, channeling. Number 3. Revelation's locusts. Are they already here? When the Apostle John was given the revelation on the island of Patmos, he saw things that defied description. Things so bizarre, so terrifying, that he had to use symbolic language to convey what he witnessed. But what if his symbols weren't symbols at all? What if he was literally describing technology and entities that wouldn't make sense until our generation? Revelation 9:1-11 describes something that should make every UFO researcher stop in their tracks. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit. And there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. And unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. A star falling from heaven. In biblical terminology, stars often represent angels. This is a being, not a meteor. He's given a key to the bottomless pit, the abyss, the prison, where according to 2 Peter 2:4 and Jude 6, the fallen angels from Genesis 6 are held. But look at what comes out. Locusts. John calls them locusts, but then describes something that sounds nothing like insects. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron. and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Let me break this down with modern eyes. Shaped like horses prepared for battle. Military vehicles. Crowns like gold on their heads. Metallic cockpits or helmets. Faces as faces of men. Visible pilots or humanoid operators. Hair like women's hair. Antenna arrays or streaming energy. Teeth like lions. Weaponry or cutting implements. Breastplates of iron, metallic hulls, wings sounding like chariots and horses, rotor blades or propulsion systems. And notice, these locusts don't act like any natural creature. Verse 4 says, "And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads." They selectively target humans, specifically unsealed humans. They can distinguish between those who belong to God and those who don't. That requires intelligence, discrimination, and purpose. These aren't animals, these are intelligent beings operating advanced technology. And they have a king. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Abaddon, Apollyon. Both names mean destroyer. This is a specific entity, a fallen angel of immense power who's been imprisoned in the abyss. When he's released, he commands an army of beings that torment humanity for 5 months. But there's more. Revelation 9:13-19 describes a second wave. "And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000,000, and I heard the number of them. 200 million. That's not a typo. An army of 200 million beings. And look how John describes them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these 3 was the 3rd part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth, and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt." Again, John is struggling to describe something beyond his experience. Breastplates of fire, jacinth and brimstone, glowing armor or energy shields, heads like lions, fierce, predatory appearance, fire, smoke, and brimstone from mouths, weapons systems, power in mouths and tails, front and rear weaponry, tails like serpents with heads, guided missiles or drones. This army kills 1/3 of humanity. With current population, that's over 2.5 billion people. No human army could do that. What are you going to do with this information? Because this isn't entertainment. This isn't conspiracy theory. Right now, at this very moment as you're watching this, Satan is active. Demons are operating. Spiritual warfare is happening all around you, whether you see it or not. But here's what's critically important to understand. Satan's activity right now is not evidence that Jesus didn't defeat him. It's evidence that we're living in a specific prophetic window, a period of time between Satan's legal defeat and his physical imprisonment. Let me explain what I mean. 2,000 years ago at Calvary, something happened that changed everything in the spiritual realm. Jesus didn't just die for our sins, though he absolutely did that. He also dealt a death blow to the entire kingdom of darkness. Colossians 2:13-15 describes it this way: "And you, being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a shoe of them openly, triumphing over them in it." Spoiled principalities and powers. That word spoiled means stripped of weapons, disarmed, rendered powerless. Jesus didn't just defeat Satan personally. He disarmed the entire hierarchy of evil, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places. And he made a shoe of them openly. In Roman culture, when a general won a decisive victory, he would parade the defeated enemies through the streets in chains, stripped of their armor, displayed publicly as proof of conquest. That's the image Paul is using. At the cross, Jesus didn't just defeat evil privately. He publicly humiliated it. He paraded the principalities and powers before the entire spiritual realm and announced, "Their authority is broken. Their power is gone. The war is won. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil." Jesus came specifically to destroy Satan's works, and at the cross, he did exactly that. So why is Satan still active? Here's where most Christians get confused. If Jesus defeated Satan at the cross, why is Satan still operating? Why are demons still tormenting people? Why does the Bible describe ongoing spiritual warfare? The answer is this: Satan is defeated legally, but he hasn't been imprisoned physically yet. Think of it like a criminal who's been convicted in court but hasn't been sent to prison yet. The verdict is in. The sentence is pronounced, the outcome is certain. But there's a period of time between the conviction and the imprisonment. That's where we are right now with Satan. 2 Corinthians 4:4 describes Satan's current status. "In whom the God of this age hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them." Satan is still called the God of this age. Not because he has legitimate authority, Jesus stripped him of that at the cross, but because he's still operating within the time allotted to him, he's still deceiving, still blinding minds, still fighting a war he's already lost. Ephesians 6:12 acknowledges this reality. "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." We're still wrestling, still fighting, because even though the enemy is defeated, he's not imprisoned yet. Satan knows his time is short. But here's what should terrify you. Satan knows what's coming. He knows his doom is certain. He knows the timeline is ticking down, and that knowledge makes him desperate.